So, David, welcome to our mission Zoom.
Thank you. Apparently, we're on the mission team, I understand.
We are. So, what actually prompted your first interest in mission?
I think there are two things really. One was flying from New Delhi down to Bangalore back in the 1993 on a work trip, and looking out over India and really just feeling impacted to pray for revival in India, and that really stayed with me. Um, I've always looked at Matthew 28, thinking that that challenge to go into all the world is really important and something that the church needs to respond to. And at the same time, it's something that we really need to embrace and pursue.
I remember you coming back and talking about that, being impacted about it at the time. For me, it was School of Ministries. It was the leadership training course in India. We were invited to go along and just sit in with the training, and then you did some speaking around in Basil churches in Mumbai, because we'd met obviously Basil sometime before that. I remember arriving at Joy Townsend's flat, who we hadn't met before. We arrived at 4 a.m, and she welcomed us and gave us I think there were mattresses on the floor at that time. So that was quite exciting. I remember it being so hot, because like you've been before, but first time in India, it's the flowers, it's the exotic smells, it's the whole impact of India with the roads and the crowds, but also the teaching and the wonderful people we met. That it was really impacting.
And we did some other trips as well, didn't we? We went to Goa. So there's nothing quite like suffering for the gospel, and also to Versailles, which is north of Mumbai. And I remember speaking both in the church in Goa and also in the church in Versailles and other churches around the Mumbai area with Basil, and really building on the School of Ministries link. We pursued that. I remember spending a week in Uganda. Doing some teaching there, and then of course also we went on to the Congo after that.
I did my School of Ministries training around that time, and the idea that we was that we would go somewhere for a week and do some teaching and then come home again. And I remember suddenly just finding out that we were actually going for 2 weeks, that we were going to the Congo. And we were doing 2 modules each, which was quite exciting. I remember arriving at the Congo. We arrived, but our suitcases didn't. It looked for a little while that like we had no accommodation booked, which was interesting. I remember the heat. I don't know why we have to do these things in the hottest part of the year over there, but it was very hot. I remember long teaching sessions. But actually surprised at how well they flowed and how much I was enjoying it. And it felt like boot camp for me in terms of doing anything abroad. I remember the armed guards and locked compounds that we stayed in overnight, and just the crowds and the poverty, very impacting.
And of course, alongside that, Joy Grenfell introduced us to Pete and Carol Brett out in Istanbul, and we really got involved with Pete and Carol and developed a supporting role for them, which we carry in the ministry team, the mission team rather, and also we also make sure that we spend time with them each year and also be in contact with them regularly.
And it was about that time we were asked to go back to India. We'd kept up contact with Basil, seen him most years, and then he asked us to go to the Hindi camp, to speak at the Hindi camp in 2018, I think it was. And the camp was in the hills outside Mumbai. Amazing experience. Very interesting accommodation, extremely basic, but we did get a bucket of water every morning to get washed in. And they were just some amazing people, about 300 to 400 people, wasn't there, from incredibly poor backgrounds. But it was actually such a pleasure to eat the food that they ate and just to be with them. An incredible experience.
I
So
remember too the children from the slums that basically have very little, and the fact that at the campsite there was a playground. I just remember all these little children just spending hours on playing on the play equipment, just because it was so new to them. It was absolutely amazing for them to have that experience. And of course, we then Ruth Thorne had talked to us about Zimbabwe and the Nehemiah project, and so we took a trip out there to look at the Nehemiah project, and actually made some really great contacts there as well.
yeah, we met Kuda and Obert. Obert ran the church out there, and Andy and Ruth have known them a long time. It was obviously us meeting them for the first time, but sometimes you just connect with people, and that's what happened with us, isn't it? We just connected, me with Kuda and you with Obert, and we'd learnt from being in the Congo that we weren't interested in going in and doing teaching and coming out again and then going somewhere else, and which is what School of Ministries mostly does. We wanted to go somewhere and actually invest in relationship and invest in the work there and build relationship over the longer term. So it was really nice to meet Obert and Kuda, and situation out there was and has continued to be really difficult, but it's just been great to support them. And you talk to Obert and I talk to Kuda on around about a weekly basis, and I can see us going back there, because that's the long-term relationship I want to invest in, the long-term scenario, and even see them coming over here. That would be fantastic if they could.
Yeah, and I think that's always been key for me, not really doing one-off things, but actually doing things that really invest and build relationship and build something for the longer term. So that's why we've got that regular contact with Pete and Carol, particularly while we're involved in the mission team, and just looking to build mission in the church in the days that are ahead.
And mission is such an incredible thing. You could think, well, you're going to all these exotic places and meeting interesting people, seeing cultures, but actually the reality is you're often uncomfortable or too hot, or you have no clothes because your suitcase didn't arrive. For me, overriding the cost of doing that is in those things and being inconvenienced, but you just have to go with the flow, because the prime motive is to build relationship and strengthen kingdom somewhere else.
Yeah, I certainly remember arriving in Uganda on the Saturday evening, and on the Sunday the pastor was driving us from Kampala down to Masaka, and the plan was that we were going to arrive partway through the Sunday morning meeting. And as we're driving along, he turned to me and he said, "So when we have visitors in the church, we normally ask them to speak on a Sunday morning?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, how long do you normally expect them to speak for?" He said, "Oh, about 45 minutes. So I think the key thing about mission is it's not neat and tidy, and you do have to be ready, almost ready for anything, but it's just an exciting opportunity to really help build kingdom, and build kingdom across the world.
Yeah, and if your heart's in it, if that's your passion, then the other things that go with it are just interesting. They're funny stories to tell afterwards. Yeah, but it's a real pleasure to be involved in mission.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Thank you, David.
Well, thank you, Gail. Have you stopped recording?
I'm trying to.